The title of this talk and what we're going to be doing here is an opportunity for people to ask anything, to get advice, a little bit of a chance for a Q&A. And going along with this, there will also be some opportunity to be in a meditative space and kind of have a time to practice meditation together, to be together in the present moment in a meditative and contemplative way. When we are able to come together in any circumstances, to be in the here and the now, the intention to be in the present moment, to be aware, then this is really a joy. This is something that is precious, something we can get a lot of value from. And this intention to be here in the present moment isn't about trying to avoid or get rid of any particular feeling, right? So we don't need to expect or approach this from the mindset that being in the present moment is only valuable or worthwhile if it's somehow pleasurable. But actually this willingness to face and to be with and to embrace the present moment experience is quite pleasurable, quite lovely. And we may find, certainly we will find that there can be a sense of dissatisfactoriness or not being fully satisfied in the body or in the mind. And that's okay. The present is a present, and this is an opportunity to be willing to receive that. For those watching on TikTok or listening through Reddit, there's also a live stream on YouTube that you're welcome to join through. And it's also possible to join through Discord as well. Okay, hey, Donald and Luke, how are you both doing? Let me. I can't hear right now, so let me see if I can fix that. Okay, maybe try again, Donald.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Donald.
Yes. How's things, Bhante?
It's quite good. Feeling fresh this morning.
Very good. Yeah, me too. It's very cold in Ireland. There's a lot of snow.
What time is it there?
It's 10 past 10 a.m.
Oh,
How about you? Where are you at the moment?
I'm in Virginia.
Ah, very nice. What time is it in Virginia?
It's 5:30. No, 5:13 a.m. So people are joining in a few different places online. So for those people, feel free to ask your question, and I'll see about if I can answer it. And also feel welcome to share experience.
What time do you usually wake up at, Bhante?
There's not much usual for me, which
Oh, okay.
which I think is quite enlightened. But my friends that are more enlightened than me maybe would not agree in terms of how they live and practice, or in terms of how they would advise me. So to
They
have
would
that,
be more stricter schedule, like
yeah,
same time every day.
yeah, to have a stricter schedule and more more supports. It's not that that schedule itself kind of gives us the benefits, but
Yeah.
it's like that's the supporting conditions to rouse the meditation mind again and again and again and again. Living in
Okay.
community, following a schedule, all of that is really can be very supportive for deepening and developing the meditation mind.
Okay.
But that's also to say, where are you going to die?
I don't quite understand.
Well, it's the present moment, right? This is the
Yeah.
the living, breathing present moment. So where is your schedule? Where is your car, your house, your possession, your plan? Where is it in the present moment?
Right.
And I empathize a lot with that. I appreciate that mindset and that approach very much. But
Yeah.
that can maybe be especially practiced when you are following a more regimented schedule. It's there to support that insight, that deeper way of looking at things. Hi there, Todd. Good morning, Sam. How's it going over there,
Alright,
Sam?
it's really strange this week. I've had a mini spiritual revelation, and ever since I basically about my medical conditions and I want my third eye to open, I've been having absolute bliss with my thoughts. and I'm in a spiritual state of flux, and I'm seeing colours, and I don't want things to push too far too soon. I got in touch with Alcoholics Anonymous, but I'm not willing for my safety because I get insomnia. I have lots of bouts of insomnia, and I don't sleep without alcohol anymore. And the way I'm trying to, as a first step, is to one day not drinking, and then I'll probably be awake for 40 hours or 40 liters or something, and then on the second day I'll drink myself unconscious.
Yeah.
And then after that I won't drink. I think that's the only step, because I put pressure on myself to do it. What I've realised in hearing voices within my head, either people I know or just my own intuition in my voice, it came through with something that I've forgotten it. Yes, I work at 100 miles an hour, and what I need to remember is in life you need balance. And I've lived a very unbalanced life. A lovely gypsy lady who I met in 2013, so when she found out I was a Gemini and I spent time with her, she told me, "Oh, what a funny thing, a Gemini without a twin." And I found a soul brother who is he's Libra, so it's about balance, and we have so much in common, and I'm so glad I've met him. He's the one. And obviously Buddhism about the cessation of suffering, but there's a paradox in there, because to enlightenment you need to suffer to gain enlightenment. But what happens when you gain enlightenment? Is enlightenment being, what is enlightenment? I'll pause there. What is enlightenment?
If it stops, it is enlightenment. If it's peace, then it is, along those lines. So that is to be free from your self-identified, conflicted, contrived, complicated state, and your belief in that, and your faith in that, and your reliance on navigating from your trust in that. It's to detach from that.
I'm going to not use the video, because when I
Your
can
connection,
see my own mirror, anything like subconscious.
Your connection is weak as well, so if you turn on the video, it'll be problematic. It makes your voice kind of glitch in and out.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I always believed in nothingness would happen after death. But I believe we have to leave this world with good karma, or karma balance. And I've sinned a lot, and I want my death to be peaceful and be proud of what I've left behind and what I've done in my life, and like impermanence and these contrived words that I'm using when we want to be nothing and we want to forget about things.
I mean, I would say, my friend, you're in England?
Yeah.
So they have AA meetings in England?
Yeah.
You should get yourself to an AA meeting. ASAP.
Yeah, I'm going to one tomorrow.
Yeah. You go regularly?
No, it'll be my first one.
Wonderful. So going to the AA meeting, and the thing is that the ideas that you're working with about spirituality, they are always going to be secondary to simplifying and stabilizing the mind. That's the first, the first step to decalcifying your pineal gland, the first step to, opening your third eye is simplifying your mind. So clearly, these notions are not supporting the simplification of your mind. Right? So you may be involved with them and you may continue to be involved with them, okay, but you don't take it too seriously. Don't take it too seriously. Don't get so easily wrapped up in it and stuck on it. And when you go to this AA meeting, really open up and really be vulnerable. But this grabbing onto the pineal gland and these notions of enlightenment, it's a kind of bypassing. Okay? It's a kind of grabbing onto this so you don't have to deal with this. Right? I am an alcoholic. I'm an addict. I am suffering. My mind is unstable. Pineal gland or not, third eye or not going to help.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
I've got some questions now as reflection for
Yeah.
I'll get to give back to you.
Yeah.
Thanks. So when I was about 21 and I was sick of institutions, I did a lot of research and I was very close to rocking up to a Buddhist monastery in England and just parking up and just joining. I heard someone else had done it. I don't think it's the done thing. Like, you're not really supposed to go down that route to get there. But like I wanted to become a monk, so I could easily be in your shoes right now. We're both 29. Not that means too much, but so what I'm trying to say is it'll be interesting to see, because I'm a bit confused, right?
Yeah. Well, just to be clear, I am an addict. My mind is unstable. Right? My mind, I am suffering. Okay? I'm not talking about you, Sam.
What are you addicted to?
I'm not talking about you, Sam. We're all addicts. Okay? And this is not meant to be a personal hour or a personal moment.
Oh, okay.
This is meant to be a moment. This is my life as a monk. This is how I show up in the world, and this is my practice. I'm not here to extrapolate upon personal stories and ideas about myself and my world. Okay? I can make up any story. I can tell myself anything. That I'm a Glorkoplox being from the 8th dimension, and I was sent here for this purpose and that purpose. Some people will believe that. Okay? And there's some things that I can tell myself that I'm going to believe very strongly and get stuck in the swamp of very strongly. Okay? That's not the point. The first noble truth in Buddhism is there is suffering. The second noble truth is that there is a cause of suffering, which is our craving, our grasping. Does that sound like addiction to you? You are suffering, and the reason that you're suffering is because you can't stop chasing and grasping onto something. Does this sound like addiction to you? The truth is not what we want it to be or what we don't want it to be. That has nothing to do with the truth. There is a created truth, and there is a reality body. Okay? There is a true truth, the truth of ever new impermanent nature, the truth of present moment mind, awareness itself. There are many different ways of approaching this. What's my, encouragement, the way that I'm working with it and the way that I have worked with it, we're not so different, Sam, is to simplify and stabilize this mind. Simple, wholesome. Yeah. Now, when you go to an AA meeting, that is a wonderful time to be vulnerable and to listen deeply and to be in a meditative space. But if you're carrying all these notions and these ideas about, your pineal gland and your spiritual colors and spiritual experiences, you're not really listening, and you're not really going to be able to make use of what is available there.
Do you know, one thing I put on my to-do list is to find a church parish and learn about scriptures. And I'm not wanting to convert to any religion.
Yeah.
I'm not an atheist. I'm not. I guess I'm agnostic, maybe.
Yeah.
But I would like to learn about Moses, Abraham, the Abrahamic religion, so Moses, the prophets. I've studied a bit of Buddhism, but I'm no expert.
Sure. Yeah, Sam, you can do it. But firstly, you need to calm the addiction down.
I'm working on it, Bhante, but it will take time.
Yeah, it's going to take time, time. But we have to be mindful. There's this wonderful teacher, Sister Jiang Niam, and we went through some of her book on healing trauma in one of our Buddhist book clubs, and she spoke about time. We have this saying that time heals, right? Time heals all wounds. Time doesn't heal all wounds. Our breathing heals. Our mindfulness heals. Okay? And so that is to keep showing up, keep exploring. Sure, learn about scripture, get involved with this or that, or whatever it might be to get involved with. But that simplicity and that openness and that open-heartedness to the present moment experience. Simple. Pineal gland or not.
Yeah, I might have had maybe semi-delusional ideas about the pineal gland.
But that's not even important. What's important is that you can be in relationship with your present moment breathing, and you can rely on that. And you can take refuge in that. You understand?
Do you know, when you said it, it made a lot of sense, and I was listening to my breathing, and I haven't done that for a very long time. But I'm very body aware at the minute. Like, I have, because for the longest times I was quite, I think there's a term called metal. I was quite cerebral, and I was in my head, and I wasn't actually consciously feeling emotions. And over time, and sort of going through life, I've got to a stage where I'm able to open up my body to emotions and go through periods of grief or like what a psychologist told me once, and this really hit home, was that a trauma is only traumatic if you haven't processed it. And the traumas that we leave deep in our psyche that we forget about can be big factors in our behaviour. And the longer the longer we suppress it, the more difficult it becomes. But when it do you understand?
Yeah, there's a lot of truth. I mean, you're a smart young man, Sam, but you have to calm down the addictions before you can do really anything. meaningful. You have to calm, simplify, stabilize. That's the starting point.
Yeah.
Right? That has to
I
be
mean,
what's emphasized.
my ultimate goal, sorry for interrupting, but my ultimate goal is to be on a raw food diet and not smoking any tobacco and not taking any intoxicants. Like alcohol is the main one at the minute.
Sure. Yeah, good. And the AA
I
meeting
said
is
to
going to
my
be indispensable for that, okay?
yeah, that's true. Yeah, thanks. That's put my mind at rest actually, because I've had mixed feelings about it. Respect your work, and I'm gonna mute my microphone now.
Okay. I'm glad to have you here as a part of our community, our Sangha, all right? Yeah, just keep up with it, keep stable, keep simple, and keep showing up, and that's the practice, right? Don't overthink it. All right, do we have anyone on Reddit that would like to raise their hand and ask a question? And we do have a question here on the YouTube from Katal. And Katal said, "Hi Bhante, I was curious on your thoughts on conceit and how to best work with being vulnerable enough to be seen for what you really are." Hi Ignatia. Hmm. Well, that vulnerability and who we truly are, right? There's so much of that that is not intellectual and doesn't need to be stuck in the intellectual, right? And it's easy to lock ourselves into this way of seeing it, where to reveal our true self is to reveal this real true person, a real true story. There's some of that can be helpful and meaningful, especially if you're working with a therapist, or if you're a part of a community and sharing from your heart, sharing your experience. All of that can be quite good. But there's also an opening up to the present moment experiencing and allowing this awareness itself and this vulnerability itself to take place. That is not so based in the intellect. So how to do that is not to grasp, but actually how to let go, right? How to calm, how to release, how to step back from our involvement, from our self-fixation, from our complicatedness. Joe, Luke, Donald, you'd like to share anything? Anything alive for you at this time? Joe, yeah, you should be able to talk if you speak now.
Okay. I've been really quiet because I wasn't sure if my mic was open or not. Actually, the whole trauma processing has been a huge thing for me in getting into everything here and understanding myself and moving forward. And the whole addiction thing kind of rang with me. You still there?
Yeah, what the addiction?
Yeah. The whole addiction thing kind of rang with me because sometimes you get so hung up on yourself and the things that you experience and the eyes and me's and my's that you kind of forget that, if you're not so focused on everything that happened, that you can realize the truth of what is physically happened, and that you didn't do the task improperly and didn't potentially cause harm to others, and your actions at the time were correct.
Is Joe breaking up for anyone else? A little bit, yeah.
Quite hard to hear you, Joe.
Okay, yeah.
Just where I am got bad signal.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm not sure which parts you guys heard. I just got so hung up on my perceived perception of events that it caused additional trauma to what I saw. So I was addicted to I did this wrong. I couldn't, react properly and this, that, and the other thing. And when I finally got somebody to remove me from my own head and look at it from a separate perspective, kind of taking a step away from that addiction of myself, it reduced that kind of suffering from me. Like I did something wrong a lot. So I wasn't focused on what I thought and the actual events that had happened instead.
Right. Well, when we are in the right environment with a therapist, with a trusted caretaker, right, a person who can really receive our experience, then when we do share, when we do confess, when we are vulnerable about what we've gone through or what we are going through, we release this grasping onto that as something that is us, right? Once you offer it out there, well, it's not yours anymore. You've given it up. You've given it away. And so there's a real release that goes along with doing that. But that doesn't mean that we just expose ourselves everywhere we go, where we go to the supermarket and, start confessing the most horrible things that we've done, out of addiction or out of our suffering or how we've been hurt, right? It's not just what we've done, but what maybe we've gone through, we've experienced. So if you can find the suitable environment to share that and be listened to deeply and wholeheartedly, that's wonderful and that's healing. But also we need to be skillful in terms of how we share, right? There's many, probably most of the time, it's a situation where oversharing is very possible. So we need to be mindful of that. Not everyone is ready to take on our traumas or our sufferings or our mistakes. Right? Not everyone has that capacity to receive those and be okay. So we need to be mindful about that. But if we can share, if we can let go, especially if it's with a good therapist or a trusted friend, and we really know that it's safe for us to share, then we can do it.
Open, but definitely the trusted therapist thing.
Yeah.
It took me many years to find, not even necessarily the right person, but just be in the right place with the right person to be able to achieve that, what I did.
Okay, so we have a comment on the YouTube from Ignatia, who says, one question. I am following the 5 Buddhist precepts that you have mentioned on several occasions. Okay, and this is the ethical guidelines for living of don't kill, don't steal, don't lie or speak harshly, don't commit sexual misconduct, and of course, you should to not be taking things that intoxicate your mind. All right, substances that poison, intoxicate the mind. All right, so I'm following the 5 Buddhist precepts that you have mentioned on several occasions. They have come naturally to me, but lately I am having conflict about not engaging in inappropriate sexual behavior or being careful. In my meditations, a certain sexual energy is emerging that is expressed in images and desire. I don't really know how to manage that energy in a healthy way. Are there methods or practices that monks use to administer it? Yeah, ignore it and don't sink into it. The moment that you find yourself getting involved in these unwholesome sexual images, desires, thoughts, the ways of thinking, you rouse your bodhi mind. Okay, you rouse your mindfulness. You bring it up, and you ignore it. Go and do something else. Right. The issue comes when we allow ourselves to kind of start getting involved and start sinking into this. Habitual thinking and getting, tangled up in this desire space, and then we lose control of ourselves. Okay? For a normal Buddhist person, for someone following the 5 precepts, sexuality itself isn't wrong, but it's unskillful, unwholesome sexual actions or behavior that leads to suffering. So try to be very careful about that. Ina says, is there a specific mantra I can use in moments of despair or extreme sadness? Breathing in, I know that I am safe. Breathing out, I feel safe. Breathing in, I know that I am safe. Breathing out, I feel safe. Good morning, Sonia. Welcome in.
Good morning.
Bhante, is it okay if I ask you a personal question about your life?
Sure, Donald, go ahead.
I was just wondering what your parents' reaction was to you becoming a monk and being on this journey.
Well, for most of us, everyone in the West, basically, if we're coming from Western culture, then the notion of a monk is very experimental, even for me as a monk. But it's even further than that for most Western people. That there's no what is a monk. It doesn't really connect. It's kind of a fantasy thing, right? So living as a monk and what goes along with that is not, someone living in the world not doing anything to make money, right? And so that doesn't really connect. That doesn't make any sense. The only the only thing where that would make sense would be if you're living at home with your parents, maybe they're wealthy or something like that, or you have a trust fund. So I guess you can do that, right? But being a monk isn't that. So there's a lot of kind of connections that just aren't there, that we don't have in America, right, or in the Western background. There, if we look a little bit deeper in our ancestry, our cultural traditions, America is not a good example, but England has, kind of a more continuous culture. Yeah, there is a priesthood, there is the Catholic Church, there is, all these things did exist, and it was more more reasonable to understand, um, joining the church or something. So for my parents, when I told them I was going to become a monk, for one, I didn't know what that was going to mean, right? I didn't know what it was going to be. I'm still kind of finding out, sometimes I'm just holding on by the threads, to this monk life, to stay with my resolve, to stay as a monk, because it's not easy, it's difficult, and it's not idealistic. Maybe for some monks it is, but it's not for me. Uh, so when I first went over there, they were just like, okay, I'd already gotten my passport and booked a ticket, and I said, hey, I'm jumping ship. I'm going to Thailand to become a monk. So they said, okay, we support you. But it wasn't until I came back to the U.S. after being away for about a year, living as a monk, that they, kind of get to experience the change that I went through. And then once again, being gone for about a year and coming back and seeing more of that change and that growth, that stability, that support that goes along with the monk life, and how that impacted my mind. So now they are, quite supportive because they know that I'm doing something that is meaningful to me and is continuously supporting me to grow and develop.
And helping a lot of people along the way as well. That's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. And this is very kind of, a new thing, because if I was doing this as an Asian monk, in Thailand or Myanmar, and there was this kind of robust interest and community, things would be quite different. We would be building a temple, or it's a lot of different things that would be going on. So for Western monastics to build communities around them is very, very new and experimental. So it's not clear, how this space is going uh, to evolve, because the helping people is also like to build community, for us to establish ourselves as a spiritual community more and more, not just to see it as a service, because it's not a service. This is me, you know this is how I live my life, the spiritual practice. And this is an invitation for people to also live their lives in terms of spiritual practice rather than material wealth development. Although most people here won't become monks, there can still be a shift in terms of how we live our lives. To be religious people, to be believers, right? To be practitioners. Maybe religious has a difficult connotation that goes along with it, but actually it's something to aspire to really lead our lives in a devoted way, and in a way where we keep showing up and we keep emphasizing this improvement and this development, this contemplative approach to this human situation, where we can rely on the power of generosity and the power of doing good deeds to sustain ourselves and also to sustain other people. You know? Girl with flaxen hair over on YouTube said, "Do you know how many monks are in the U.S.? American monks or Western monks is just going to be, 10 or something like that, or 20 or 30, some in that range. And most of them are going to be cloistered. So most of them are not going to be active in doing social work, certainly not in this way, like how I do it. But a lot of them are going to be fully cloistered, where they're not. Maybe they don't have a phone. They don't do, teaching or community sangha building. Right. So in terms of monks who are sangha building in the U.S., it's just probably around 10, 15, 20. But there are hundreds of Buddhist monks from Asia, from Thailand or Myanmar or Taiwan. There's many Buddhist temples here with those kind of monks. Still not too many. Sonia, yeah?
Do you see my Buddha?
Yeah, great. Look at that.
I just want to let you see.
Perfect. Yeah, very nice.
And I don't know which hour you have at your home in California, but it's really the sun is going up here in Montreal. So it's not even how you say that, when the sun arises. How you say that in English?
The sunrise.
But I don't know how come you're up at that hour.
Well, I'm in Virginia now. I'm on the East Coast, so it's 3 hours before. No, it's 3 hours later. So it must be 3 a.m. in California, but it's 6 a.m. in Virginia, East Coast.
It's exactly like in Montreal, so that's why I understand now.
Yeah. Hi, Jessica. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, Jupiter. Welcome in, Olivia. I don't think I have seen you here before. Is that right? Maybe we can read something, see what that inspires in us. Actually, it's better to do nothing. And conditions like this are suitable to inspire us and to invite us to do nothing. And this doing nothing can be so nourishing and lovely and wonderful. If you have a question or you want to share something, then you're welcome to do so.
Okay. Yesterday, when we talked about having an experience, I just would love to say something, but I will just say it right now. I don't know if you can understand what I mean. I think that we are not having a lot of those experiences in our lives, and when we have one, it's a little bit like a shock, right? The first time.
What kind of experience is that?
We were talking about having an experience today morning at 11 o'clock. Remember?
Okay.
Do you remember that we were questioning why we have emotion and strong emotion if it's in the ultimate? And Michelle was asking question about that state.
I do remember that experience, yeah.
So I didn't say it yesterday, but I think that I could understand that when we first experimenting that kind of state of mind, it's confused us, right? Don't you think?
I think the confusion is the confusing part. And if we are willing to let go of that, then we can bloom like a flower and we can be solid like a mountain. It's the true nature is, called the true nature for a reason, because it's true. And these other formations that are coming up, these clouds that are coming up, are also true in a sense in that they are there, right? We have an experience of them, but they are fundamentally temporary, and also not fundamentally, they are see-through. They are not solid. They don't exist as separate self-entities, right? A cloud never dies. A cloud is never born. So the same is true with our complicated emotional idea or belief or perception or baggage. Yeah. It's disorienting to identify with these strong emotions. That's what's disorienting. But if we can step back from identifying with those and rather be a caretaker and a awarer of those without seeing them as me or mine, then it's a very flexible and open situation. How about the Tibetan place? Did you go there yet, Sonia?
I didn't have the chance, but I'm projecting first day I can, I will go because their activity on Wednesday and dimanche it's Sunday too. 2 days, but I was with my mom last Sunday, and I have a visio conference for work last Wednesday, so I think it's gonna be this Sunday.
Great. There's a kind of an active Tibetan place nearby me where my mom lives here in Virginia, and I'm thinking about going there today. They have some kind of retreat kind of thing.
What kind of Tibetan Buddhism is it?
I'm really not involved with the Tibetan Buddhism, so.
Okay. The school, or I mean the community where I learned Buddhism maybe 20 years ago, it's Vajrayana. So there's meaning like the small vehicle, and it's Mahajana, and Vajrayana is more a mystic practice. So we visualize our chakra and Buddha of medicine. It's very much like with symbolic form. And they said that it's a big vehicle because if you go through those teaching, you can liberate yourself in one life. But it's very, very much esoteric. And for me, I thought it was working very well because when we visualizing those very beautiful image of Buddha are affecting us in this image, it was giving a feeling of healing a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, we should be careful not to identify too much with our preferences. So it's true, different strokes for different folks. Different things work for different people, and you should emphasize to do what works, and leave it at that. That's less entangled in the particular. If this practice is better or worse, or is higher or lower, but just if it works, and make use of it, right? So you can get the benefits.
Absolutely.
we can notice and become aware of various burdens kind of arriving in our life, right? We want to get a passport, we want to travel, we want to go somewhere, we want to do something, we want to have an experience. We have to do this, we have to do that. So it comes up and it's burdensome, right? It's stressful to have all these things on our itinerary. At that moment of arising, that desire, that thing we need to do, that thing we want to do, etc., to take off the burden, take off the pack, put it down. How wonderful, how enjoyable. It's like coming home after a long vacation. Right? Especially if we keep our home in a nice way. Or it's like spending all day walking, hiking, maybe traveling in a city. Maybe we're a traveler and we're visiting a different city or something like that, right? And we spend all day kind of walking around and seeing the sights, and then we get back and we just to relax, to lay down, to rest. Moment by moment we can practice like this, and it's very, very enjoyable. It's very, very nourishing, and our meditation practice has to be like that, and it has to be present-minded. Otherwise it's a dead practice. It's not a real practice. We're missing out on the pivotal point. We're putting the pivotal point at some place, at some time, with some person. Well, don't cheat yourself. This is the moment. This is a happy moment. This is an enjoyable moment. Because this is the moment when you can put down your baggage, your burden, your complicated thinking. And a lot of people have been asking recently, how is my mom? Because they know that I came out here to stay with her for a bit because she got surgery. She is very, very fine. She is completely okay, nothing to worry about. Yeah. Olivia or Jupiter, you like to, or Jessica, you like to share something or ask a question?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, yeah.
Good morning. I wanted to say that I've noticed in my travels with my learning that when I try so hard, the more that I try, it's almost like the less that I get out of it, and the less that I try, the more that I receive, if that makes sense. I've been like, for instance, if I'm simply washing dishes, I'll have a profound moment during washing dishes, instead of when I'm literally sitting and meditating. But when I try really hard, it does get quiet and things do happen. But it just seems to me the less that I try, the more that I get from it. And I don't know what to make out of that. If you have any words of wisdom about that.
The sky doesn't need to put forth effort to reveal itself. It is in the nature of the sky to reveal itself.
Thank you.
But there's an aspect to that of how do we really show up to doing nothing, because we don't want to fall into a dead state or a sleepy state. Or if we, it's kind of strange, but I believe this is actually completely true. So when you lay down, when you're quite tired and to rest and to relax, and you lay down and it feels lovely and wonderful and the body fully relaxes, what happens? You fall asleep.
Fall asleep.
Yeah. So I've heard it said before that sleeping is the poor person's enlightenment. Poor spiritually, okay, not materially. So if you were to be able to maintain your awareness, your brightness, as you fell into this deep state of relaxation, well, you would probably be having a profound meditation experience. It doesn't quite work like that, so maybe that's the issue in this analogy. We can't just shift ourselves in some way where now our normal process of falling asleep when we relax so much is now, entering into the jhanas, or these deep states of meditation. But it's somewhat true, right? So how do we bring this brightness and this presence, this wholeheartedness, to not doing anything? How do we bring that quality of not doing anything to doing anything? Right? And I feel for me that that's where a kind of inquiry comes in, right? We inquire into this present moment experiencing. We get curious about it, interested in it, to the point where shallow perceptions and other people's judgments and things that ultimately really do not serve us are irrelevant. Not because we'd rather not deal with that or answer that, but because we're too curious about kind of the present moment experiencing that's taking place. We're too curious and interested in our reality body. Not just this surface level way of seeing things, ourselves, the world, but there's a practicality to our life and to our experience. And there's so many blessings that go along with that practicality. You know, we surround ourselves with authentic people. We surround ourselves contemplative people. We find ourselves to be around them and not reliant upon the shallow perceptions or judgments of the uninitiated, those who aren't really curious, those who aren't really interested, those who are not willing to put down their doing, their preconceived notion, their busyness. They can't stay. They're not relevant. And when we practice like this, we really live a quite a relevant, embodied life. But we don't need to do anything to make it like that. It is like that. It's in not doing anything that this reveals itself so fully, so completely. You are a fool. You are a fool. Takes one to know one. You can't really say it unless you are a fool. You know, so who's there to be upset with? Right? The fool or the fool? Which one? Who should you point the finger at? This fool or that fool? And why are you going to get into a debate or an argument with a fool? Right? With a foolish person. That's what a fool does.
Bhante, fool, is it like crazy?
A fool. Well, it's not. Crazy is also okay, but crazy is maybe a little bit ableistic, and fool is more pointing to our predisposition to unskillfulness, our predisposition to ridiculousness, right? I mean, at least for myself, I can say I am certainly a ridiculous person in so many ways.
Well, I don't think so, but it's
Well,
a
we're
way.
putting this mindset of
Yeah.
separation, okay? And we're putting this mindset of good and bad. But actually for me, to see the ridiculousness of a situation is to see its impermeability. It's so permeable. It's so interconnected. It's so vast and spacious. There are so many different. It's like a diamond is in some sense ridiculous. A diamond that is reflecting all different directions and lights and colors and fractals, and there's so much there, right? I mean, it's kind of, to be a human being, to be alive right now. Yeah, you can say that it's a blessing, and that's also a good way to say it, but it's also ridiculous. It's also unbelievable, ungraspable. It can't be grasped, right? To try and grasp this present moment experiencing as being, you couldn't. It's too vivid, it's too effervescent, right? Do you know a like a tablet that you put in the water and then it bubbles and it fizzes? Have you seen that before? Okay. So you put a tablet like that in the water, and you film it with a 4K camera. So you see all the bubbles, all the cha-cha-cha going on, okay? No, that's not it. You haven't grasped it. It's just a view. And it's a limited view. So the more that we humble ourselves to this present moment experiencing and the vividness and the aliveness of this present moment, the more we can see how ridiculous our position is. Solidity only goes together with whatever the opposite of solidity is. There's no stability without instability. But we can go to a place through dropping away, through detachment, through giving up, where stability and instability are irrelevant. Tried to pull up a story here. I'll see if I have this in my files. One day, the master went with Puhua to eat a meal at the home of a lay believer. Okay, so there was a lay person, a believer, who invited the monk to come and eat at the house. The master said, One hair swallows up the huge sea. One mustard seed holds Mount Sumeru. Is this a manifestation of supernatural power, or is that just the way things have always been? Now I'll give you a tip about this, okay? Within your fingertip is the sun. Within the sun is your entire body. And yet you're not on fire, are you? Separation in any appearance is just that. It's an appearance. We are not separate from one another. In a single eyebrow hair is the entirety of the universe, because it is not separate from the entirety of the universe. It contains it. It cannot exist without it. One day the master went with Puhua, another monk, the master and the monk, to eat a meal at the home of a lay believer. The master said, "One hair swallows up the huge sea. One mustard seed holds Mount Sumeru, the great mountain. Is this a manifestation of supernatural power, or is that just the way things have always been?" Puhua kicked over his dinner tray. The master said, "Too coarse." Puhua said, "Where do you think you are, talking about what's coarse or what's fine?" All right, so the master asked this question, and then Puhua, this other monk, kicked over his dinner tray. What, Sonia, how are you, if you invite, some great Tibetan Lama and another monk to your home, and then this happens, and this other monk kicks over their dinner plate, what are you going to do?
I will probably not react the same if I have that monk that is throwing his tray, and if the sage in the same moment is there, because I will maybe probably wait to see what he's going to do.
The teacher, the Lama, the master,
teacher,
right?
the Lama.
You'll have the faith in the master. Good. So here, after the master kind of said this, right, gave this presentation of one hair swallows up the huge sea, one mustard seed holds Mount Sumeru. So kind of a very Zen thing to say, right? And you would want a master that can say something like that at the dinner table, right? It's such a joy. They say with a lot of authenticity, and they really mean it. And then ask, is this a manifestation of supernatural power, or is that just the way things have always been? So at that moment, Puhua kicked over his dinner tray, right? And the master said, "Too coarse," right? Too rough, right? Not subtle enough. So the master was kind of saying, by saying too coarse, that's, that response is a little bit too rough. Okay? So saying that you don't quite grasp it or get it is what the master is saying, by the way that you respond. The way that you respond is too coarse, too rough, not refined enough, not subtle enough to make it clear that you really understand the truth. Okay, we can say the truth of impermanence. We can say the truth of interconnectedness. Okay. Welcome in, Nino. So then Puaha said, "Where do you think you are, talking about what's coarse or what's fine? Who do you think you are? Where do you think you are, speaking like that?" The story that story ends there. So who knows what happened? The following day, the master once again went with Puhua to eat a meal provided by a lay believer. So the master had this experience with Puhua, but he's still to continue. Okay, in the practice, right? He invite him to go again. So clearly, this Puhua isn't. There's something here. The following day, the master once again went with Puhua to eat a meal provided by a lay believer. He said, "I wonder how today's hospitality will compare with yesterday's." Puhua, as before, kicked over his dinner tray. The master said, "That's all right, to be sure, but it's too coarse." Puhua said, "Blind man, in the Buddha Dharma, what talk is there of coarse or fine?" The master stuck out his tongue in alarm. So, this is a play. This is an interaction. And it brings up a mindset of faith and doubt. Okay? Puhuaha here is acting out of great faith in the truth, in impermanence, to express the pivotal point, that the pivotal point is here and now. It's not in contrived thinking. It's not in rules. It's not in perceptions and views about yourself or other people or the way that things are supposed to go, right? The monk coming to the dinner and invited to receive the dana, the donation to feed the monk, right, is not supposed to kick over the dinner table, okay, or throw their plate around. But the reality is that the truth doesn't depend on that. It doesn't depend on our story about our life or our story about someone else. Okay? It's alive. It's here and now. Okay? It's vivid. It's transparent. It's really powerful. So Puhuaha expressed this in a particular kind of way. Maybe we can see in the first story that the master is a little bit contrived in the way that he's presenting it. At least it would be easy to see that. Like it's a little bit put on or it's a little bit intellectual. Okay, something along those lines. One hair swallows up the huge sea. One mustard seed holds within it the greatest mountain. Right? Is this a manifestation of supernatural power? Or is that just the way things have always been? Maybe it's a little bit put on, a little bit contrived. Okay? At that moment, Puhua responded by kicking over his dinner tray. And the master said, "That's too rough." Then Puhua said, "Where do you think you are? Talking about what's coarse or what's fine? Where do you think you are? Getting stuck in what's good or what's bad, right or wrong? It's like the king of death is confronting you and you're saying, that person was mean to me. Where do you think you are? What do you think is happening? Wake up, right? Get with it. Get real. Get based. Get strong. Get alive. Get contemplative. Get careful. Right? Get rich, healthy and wealthy mind, contemplative, ready to step into this present moment experience in a way that isn't just to point the finger or to say this is good or bad, right or wrong, but actually to break through our preconceived notions about what reality is, who we are, who other people are, and to unfold and that effervescent, right? Like that tablet that we put in the water and it starts to fizzle and bubble. There's so much richness. There's so much intricacy. There's so much to notice.
Bhante,
Yeah.
do I understand well? Because when you say the master, for me, is the teacher and the sage, And when you talk about Puhua, I see him a little bit like a fool sometimes, but sometimes I feel that they can inverse their. Sometimes the fool is teaching, and am I wrong?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Okay? Who is the one who is staying in the Buddha mind? And who is the one who is coming and going, getting stuck in right and wrong, this and that? Okay? The one who can step back is the one who is going to win the duel. If you can't step back, then you can't win. If you can step back fastly and quickly and strongly enough, you will always win. Right? You'll step back, go around the whole world, and bump into that person and back, and they'll fall forward. Mindfulness and detachment. The god of death, the king of death, can only be defeated with detachment. This body is completely impermanent. This mind, this thinking, right, this view, this perception is completely impermanent. And it's in no way separate from anything else. To say that it is an obfuscation of the truth. This puts us into a contemplative and practical way of living, because it's not to reject anything, but it's more to step into the effervescent quality of this present moment experiencing. So you can't debate, so you can't say, hey, no, that's not, that's too coarse. That's too fine. You can't really say that. So then when the master said that, Puhua said, where do you think you are, talking about what's coarse or what's fine? What's going on here? Where do you think you are? Don't think. You're not going to solve it through thinking, in the same way that you didn't build your body through thinking. But that don't think is actually inclusive of all thinking. That don't think is more of a looking deeply in awareness itself. So thinking can take place. But it's not our usual way of looking at, it's not our usual way of thinking, which is always self-fixated. Someone at some place at some time. So the following day, the master once again went with Puhua to eat a meal provided by a lay believer. He said, I wonder how today's hospitality will compare with yesterday's. Puhua, as before, kicked over his dinner tray. The master said, that's all right to be sure, but it's too coarse. Puhua said, blind man, in the Buddha Dharma, what talk is there of coarse or fine? The master stuck out his tongue in alarm. Now for me, there's a lot of love and seemingly self-control in these kind of actions. You know, and it is the quality of mind that you do them in. So if Puha was acting from this place of utter authenticity and sincerity, that their act, their expression of pushing over the dinner table or the tray, right, was this act of great wisdom and great love and compassion, this spontaneous act, this authentic act, then that's a real expression of their Buddha mind. You know, it's this heart of authenticity and spontaneity. Doesn't mean we need to go around pushing over tables, but it also speaks to this fact of, so what? Someone flips over their dinner tray. Someone gets angry, someone gets upset, the situation gets a little bit intense. So what? Why is everything the end of the world? Why does every storm need to put us into this place of peril? Why do we need to constantly fall off balance at everything that isn't the way we expect it to be? Right? Someone comes in and starts screaming or saying negative things, or our heart starts beating quickly. Right? We start to feel anxiety in our body. So what? Who cares? Are you just indulging in a self-fixated way of desire and fear and complicated thinking, and you're just kind of following the stream of whatever comes up and getting stuck in that? Or are you able to step back? And I love this. I mean, I'm always looking for a teacher like Puhaha. You know, I haven't met one yet, but I'm waiting to meet a teacher like that. But you can't do it like Puha did it. That would be a certain kind of stealing or cheating, right? It's not actually authentic because you're just following someone.
Bhante, when the author choose to write the master, for me, when I hear master, I would thought that it would be the more sage. So I like the way that it looks to play with our perception and conception and identification in the vocabulary. So it's like if we have to be more fluid about all those concepts, right?
And there's a we don't want to fall into this issue of deifying someone, right? So when we hear master, when we see a monk, or we see someone who's facilitating or leading things or whatever it might be, you know, we're putting them on this pedestal, okay? But actually, it should be a kind of grounded and practical relationship that is based on your experience and your close looking. Okay? Yeah, we can have respect for people. We can be in relationship with people. We can support people. We can trust people, right? But to deify them, to see them as something that's other than human, is always going to get us into trouble, right? This person is higher than that person. Well, no, not necessarily. And if we do look at something in that way, first and foremost, we should be ready to let it go. But also, we should just be doing that in a practical manner. So this person is, let's say, quote unquote, higher or more enlightened than that person. So that doesn't mean you're fixating on this person and that person, but you're just going in that direction other than that one. Period. Okay, and it doesn't mean you can't hear what's coming from that direction or take a look at it, but ultimately you've tasted that water and it tastes like crap. So you're not going to go back there and drink more of it. Yeah, for me in this kind of story, it's very affectionate, it's very sweet, it's very lovely. There's something so sweet about it for me, this kind of interaction. Because the actions are taking place at least from the intention related to compassion and wisdom, the insight into the truth, the present moment truth. And this compassion of being able to forgive and being able to, forgive Puha for kicking over their dinner tray. That's wonderful. Oh, that's how Puha expressed his enlightenment, his understanding. Oh, but I made this dinner and I made this presentation and now it's kicked over. Well, that's everything is like that, right? Everything's falling apart. It's so sweet. And all the better to be the monk that's just attending to the master and Puha, right? You get to be the fly on the wall. And, and if you're a good practitioner, then also the one who's serving the meal. You don't get, oh no, that's my meal that I made and he kicked it over, but you just get to enjoy this interaction between these two sages, right? These practitioners on the path. Okay, so this next story, I just felt inspired to bring up these stories of Puha. This is maybe my favorite monk that I've ever heard about or read about, but very little is known about him. He's only mentioned a couple times in these few short stories, but he's probably my favorite Zen monk that I ever heard about. So, and the master here is Master Linji, Lin Chi, who's one of the, when we say Zen, we're a lot of what we're pointing to and getting our connection to this, the meaning of this word is coming from Lin Chi, the Lin Chi school. So that's who this master is. So that master word is not said lightly, but it's referring to Master Lin Chi. The mind is a clear blue sky. The mind is a clear blue sky. Thoughts come, thoughts go, but the mind is a clear blue sky. The mind is a clear blue sky. Views come, views go, but the mind is a clear blue sky. The mind is a clear blue sky. One day the master was sitting with Ho Yang and Muta, two elderly monks, around the fire pit in the dirt-floored part of the monks' hall. Someone took the opportunity to remark, Puhua goes around the streets of town every day behaving like an idiot or a madman. I can't tell whether he is a common mortal or a sage. Before the speaker had finished, Puhua came in. The master said, "Are you a common mortal or a sage?" Puhua said, "You tell me, am I a common mortal or a sage?" The master gave a shout. Puhua pointed with his finger and said, Ho Yang is a new bride. Mu Ta is an old Chan granny. Lin Ji is a little brat, but he's got an eye. The master said, "This thief." Puhua said, "Thief, thief," and left the hall. Anyone have any insight about this story?
I think I have something to say about it.
All right.
So when he enters the hall, he kind of acknowledges the fact that does it matter what people say, I guess, by asking, I don't know which master it was, but, you tell me. And then he goes to say, point out perhaps the way they are, kind of expose the truth or something. But I've heard this before, but it always confuses me, so I would love to hear what other people have to say.
So I'll read the story again. One day the master was sitting with Ho Yang and Mu Ta, two elderly monks, around the fire pit in the dirt-floored part of the monks' hall. Someone took the opportunity to remark, Puhua goes around the streets of town every day behaving like an idiot or a madman. I cannot tell whether he is a common mortal or a sage. Before the speaker had finished, Puhua came in. The master said, "Are you a common mortal or a sage?" Puhua said, "You tell me, am I a common mortal or a sage?" The master gave a shout. Puhua pointed with his finger and said, Ho Yang is a new bride. Mu Ta is an old Chan granny. Lin Chi is a little brat, but he's got an eye. The master said, "This thief." Puhua said, "Thief, thief," and left the hall. I love this comment we just got over on TikTok that said, "Stop concerning yourself with what someone is and learn from what they do." For me, that's a real invitation to deepen, right? Deepen our experience and our understanding. more accurate, more vital, more alive. And then we can go even beyond that, although we shouldn't, it's easier said than done, and maybe we can think we see this way when we don't, but we can look into their true nature. So the true nature of no master, no student, no host, no guest, no higher, no lower, no good, no bad. Free, their true nature that is free of discrimination. Freedom from these labels. Are you a good person or a bad person? I also feel this mindset of compassion in all interaction, so that there's no ill will. You know, when someone took the opportunity to make this remark of Puhua goes around the streets of town every day behaving like an idiot or a madman. I can't tell whether he's a common mortal or a sage. For me, there's so much affection in that statement. There's so much love, there's so much compassion. And if this is a real monk, if this is a real wise monk, right? If we are really in our place of wisdom, then it doesn't matter what we say it with compassion. We say it with wisdom. We say it with a deeper understanding. We don't carry around this negative view about a particular person at a particular time. We free ourselves from that. So even to say that someone is an idiot or a madman can be a total act of compassion, an act of love. So one of these monks remarked that, kind of to label Puhua. And before he could finish, Puhua came in, and the master said, "Are you a common mortal or a sage?" And Puhua said, "You tell me. Am I a common mortal or a sage?" And the master gave a shout. No discrimination. Cutting right through. Then Puhua pointed with his finger and said, "Ho Yang is like this. Mu Ta is like that. Lin Chi is a little brat, but he's got an eye." So also a kind of affection, an invitation. The master said, "This thief." Okay? So now Puhua has came in and turned the situation. Now Puhua is the host. Now Puhua is the one making discriminations. This person's like that. This person is like this. And he's not confused. He's full faith, full doubt, full presence to cut through and just say and just do. Not leaving the door open for someone else to come in and say, "No, it's like this. You're like this, you're like that." Thief, thief. One day Puhua was in front of the monk's hall eating raw vegetables. The master saw him and said, "Exactly like a donkey." Puhua brayed like a donkey. The master said, "This thief." Puhua said, "Thief, thief," and walked away. Okay? Puhua took it back. to be the host, not the guest, to be abiding in the Buddha mind, regardless of the situation. And to let that be known. Puhua regularly went around the streets of the town ringing a handbell, okay? Choo-choo, 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 and saying, "Come on the bright side, and I will hit you on the bright side. Come on the dark side, and I will hit you on the dark side. Come from 4 corners or 8 directions, and I will hit you like a whirlwind. Come from the empty sky, and I will hit you like so many flails." Because of this, the master instructed his attendant to go, and as soon as Puha had spoken in this way, to grab a hold of him and say, "What will you do when I don't come in any of those ways?" When the attendant had done so, Puhua pushed him away and said, "Tomorrow there is to be a meal at the Great Compassion Cloister." The attendant came back and reported this to the master. The master said, "For some time now I have been suspicious of this fellow." Knock, knock. Hello? Knock, knock.
Who is there?
No one.
No one who?
Every present moment sensation, mental or physical, material or mental, we can embrace with our mindfulness. It doesn't matter if it comes from above or below, the left or the right, the inside or the outside. It doesn't matter if it comes in none of those ways. To embrace. Don't pretend. Be authentic. We've watched so many movies, so many TV shows. We've read so many stories. We've played back in our mind again and again these TV shows, movies, and stories of our own life. But if we turn off the TV, if we turn off the computer, if we turn off the smartphone, we will find that it's not a pretending situation. It's quite real, it's quite alive, it's intense, it's difficult to no longer be consuming something or involved with something, to face the mind itself, to face reality itself, to face truth itself. And this is what we do as a practitioner, as someone who's on the path, as a believer. Believing that this mind is not other than the Buddha mind, that this awareness is not other than the awareness of not someone, not something, not some place, not some time, but awareness itself. eyes may be closed, but the mind is to be fully awake, fully aware, fully present. Don't try to control, escape. Just embrace. So at this time, we will finish by listening to the Heart Sutra as it's chanted by the Plum Village Sangha. So as we listen to this, we can bring our hands together and listen deeply and enjoy.
Sa
Okay, dear friends, thank you so much for joining me this morning. And we will have our regular morning meditation event in, I guess it's about 3 hours from now. So, is that right? Yeah, it should be 3 hours from now. So, maybe I'll see you there, but please take care, enjoy.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you very much.
I encourage anyone who is still joining live here on YouTube, you can hop on over to the wonderful live teaching by Ajahn Brahm, giving a Dhamma talk. So definitely encourage you to hop over to there.
Take you wherever you wanted to go. So that's one of the reasons why in those early days the elephant was a much better form of transport in the jungles than say a horse. So anyway, the royal elephant started to get cranky, started to squirt water at the king, or poo in front of the trainer, and I wondered why. I think those of you who are Sinhalese just know they have the elephants over in Sri Lanka, they put the